This time on Ask Rad Rat, we're going to talk about if you can be pro without skating rails. We're going to see some of my best footage ever. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Rad Rat Video Channel where you can learn new things about skateboarding. I talk about all different kinds of things in the skateboarding world that covers as many topics as I can, including video games, trick tips, and answering your questions. I've got a few of them for you today. The first one is from Grunions through Patreon, who says, do you think the Olympics will have a big impact on skateboarding? I would guess that we might end up with an optimal board size, wheel setup, etc. due to teams trying to find an edge, just as with other sports. Or that might only happen if we end up with some speed-based event. I guarantee people will be skating in Lycra bodysuits in 10 years' time. Winky face. So the thing about the Olympics is that it's just one event, and it's every 4 years. But all the stuff that's in the Olympics, the foot races, the sprints and the relays and the long jumps and all that, those have other contests throughout the year and every year. And that's where all that stuff comes into play. If the Olympics is just one thing, you get a gold medal, it's made out of silver and they paint a little gold over it. Like, you're not getting paid the big bucks going to the Olympics. You get paid through having endorsements and all that kind of stuff. But the reason why you have all the trainers and the nutritionists and all that kind of stuff figuring out exactly how you should perform and monitoring everything and getting you in that perfect shape is for all those competitions. In skateboarding, the Olympics is just going to be one thing. Every other competition is still going to be the same thing. Street League is going to stay the same. Battle at the Barracks is still the same. All that stuff is going to be exactly the way it always was. And that's going to be 95% of skateboarding. The Olympics is just going to be this one little thing. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. But it is kind of interesting with all the training in the Olympics and all that, like where skateboarding could go. What if the Olympics spawns more of those, like the national competition to figure out who goes to the Olympics? It becomes a more standard thing. Could there potentially be people who are training to get an edge on this specific course? Like maybe they use the same course every single time. And they're training on that course and they're learning how to do lines in this one specific thing and they're getting really, really good at this. And their trainers are having them build muscle in a certain way so that they can always hit this gap, but they're not going to be so big that they have trouble with this. I just don't see that happening. The Olympics, as far as skateboarding culture and everything is concerned, is going to be a tiny, tiny little thing. At least that's my theory at the moment. We'll see if I'm proven horribly wrong in the future. Okay, next one is from Smitty G, who says, recently I saw a clip where Jaws kickflips El Toro. He lands, he snaps his tail, but rolls away with the tail barely attached. Him and his crew all celebrate as if he made it and pop a bottle of champagne. Did it really count, though? Yeah, I think it did, because the thing is, if your board breaks, but you kept your balance, you landed on the board, your board failed, but you didn't. You landed the trick. It's just that your board happened to break while you did it. It's not as cool as if your board didn't break. Like maybe if you landed a little bit more bolts, it wouldn't happen type of thing, but it still counts. I think the question where it gets a little bit more complicated is where you land and then there's grass. How far do you have to roll before it counts? There was this spot, I don't know where it is. I think PJ Ladd skated a lot. If I find it, I'm going to post some footage of it. And you land into this little area, and then there's a ledge right there. So you land, and then you hit this wall, or you jump over it, or something like that. Now, you could land with pretty bad position. Like, you're about to slip out, but then you hit the wall, and then it throws you back forward. Like, how do you determine whether it counts or not? And it's just, you just watch it, and you'll feel whether it did or not. It's tough to say. Like, there's that. There's also grass where you land a handrail, and the handrail, you got to gap out a little bit to land on the sidewalk because there's grass right next to it. So if you land and you roll straight into the grass, do you feel like you would have rolled away if there was no grass there? Cool. It's a little bit complicated. But again, like whether something counts or not is kind of a weird concept in skateboarding anyway, because it's not for points. You don't get anything for it. It's either a good clip, it's good footage of something you did, or it's not. And I think that's kind of the bigger issue, is that there's no points. No one's paying attention. There's no judges who are going to decide whether it counted or not. It's either a good clip or it's not. And I think that as long as you were probably going to keep your balance, I think you can count it. All right. Next question is from Jim. He says, "Hey, Rad, I see you sometimes include clips of yourself skating in some of your videos. Did you ever release a full video part that we can see?" I did a few. Me and my buddy Tony would make a video every year or two, and we would actually make like a disc. We'd have a DVD, and we'd have a cover design, and we would have special features, and we would have all this stuff. And then no one would care because we were the only two skaters in our friend group. We would have people over, and we would do a premiere for our video, and people are just like falling asleep during it because skateboarding tricks mean nothing if you don't know them, you know, like the difference between a kickflip and a heel flip, or like I did a half cab flip. How much harder is that than whatever? Like people who don't skate don't care about it. So we have all these extra features. We had it snows a lot in Michigan where I'm from, so we had this video feature where Tony's board, is like depressed because he's thinking back on the days when they could go play in the sun and all that kind of stuff, and he's like drinking himself to death and stuff. We would do all this kind of stuff, and it was fun. I can't put a lot of it online because it all has copyrighted music in it, of course, but a while ago I did take all of my best footage, re-edited it to some royalty-free music, and I put it here. I named it the Best of Rad Rat. It's not good. Like, watch it if you want. I was never that great at skateboarding. I just try to do weird stuff. My problem with filming, though, is like I would always push it a little bit too hard. I would get close to landing a trick for the first time, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to do it in a line. Like, grab the camera, let's do this. And so I would eventually do it, and it would just be terrible, you know? Like, instead of practicing something and getting good at it and then trying to film it, I would always try to just jump straight into the filming part. So I would have just really crappy footage. Like, looking back on it now, it's all so bad. Like, for me, it was always about how it would be on paper. You know, like, I'm going to do... I think there's a line where I did a toe flip in the line. I don't know if that made it in the clip or if I'm going to be able to find it, but I think I'd done that trick once, like a year before, and I was just trying to think of a way, because my board was going to be backwards or something. I'm just going to figure out a way to do this. I'm going to have to do a setup trick. I'm going to do a toe flip. Like, you know, I'm 1 in 20 on that because I haven't done it in years, and I barely ever did it back then, but I'm going to do it in a line because it'll be cool. I want to do a trick that people won't expect in the middle of this line. I can't just do like a varial kickflip or something like that. I'm going to do something weird. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And then it would just be too hard because I hadn't done the trick in forever. And I would always film stuff like that. And so now, like, my footage is all me crawling along at 2 miles an hour, landing every trick sideways and then kick turning and stuff. And it's not great. But if you really want to watch it, there are some pretty cool tricks. I did some interesting stuff throughout the years, I guess. But it hasn't aged well, if it was ever good. I thought it was kind of good at the time, but whatever. Yeah, check that out. Click on the thing right there. Maybe I'll put it at the end too, for the recommended video. Okay, the next question is from 3 The Chosen, who says, "Can I become pro without skating rails? Do I have to skate rails to be pro? Are there any pros who can't or don't skate rails?" Well, Rodney Mullen, I mean, he did a dark slide on a handrail once, but he wasn't known for skating handrails. Daewon Song, another example. Not that he can't skate handrails, but when do you ever see him do it? There are a lot of skaters who don't skate rails. It's just when you get really, really good at street, you can probably do a handrail. So I don't think it's not like a requirement. You can skate anything you want, and if you get good enough and you can get some attention and coverage for it, you could eventually be pro. Especially these days, you can be pro for doing anything. It's just that being pro doesn't have as much of a meaning as it used to. Like, there's pro freestylers, but guess what? They all have jobs. They're not like making the big bucks going on tour around the world and filming freestyle stuff because not as many people are into it. But if you get really good at anything, you can be really good at slalom. You know, like rolling down a hill and going, turning between cones or whatever. You can get really good at that and be pro. It's just, if you're going to be a big name pro that everyone's going to hear of, you're probably going to be able to do handrails, but no one's going to make you. You can do whatever you want to do. You can be really good at skating pools. You can go pro doing that. You can be super tech, lots of manuals and stuff. There's smaller brands that would turn a guy like that pro. It's just being pro is more about marketability than anything. Like if you take a really good skater who doesn't like to film and nothing's out there about him, and he's also a jerk and nobody likes him, he's really good at skateboarding though, you can't really turn that guy pro, because who's going to buy his board? Nobody's going to buy his board. Nobody cares. So like, as long as you, and don't make it your goal to go pro. Like, I don't know how good you are yet. If you're worried about being forced to do handrails, you're probably not in the pro level at the moment. Maybe you're working your way toward it. Don't make it your goal to be pro. Being a pro skateboarder is not the dream life that it may seem like it is. Unless you are amazing and you get to be super popular, being a pro is not going to bring in that much money, and it's probably going to leave you on the street eventually. Unless you know the right people and you turn it into a career doing like whatever else. I don't know, man. So you can be pro doing it. Whatever you like to do, if you get good enough at it, you could be pro. You could be skating everything but rails, and that's fine. But don't plan your life around this. If you end up getting some sponsors, you end up being really, really good, go for it. But, you know, skate however you want to skate and just see where it takes you. That's my best advice for trying to get out there and do more in skateboarding. Just do what you like to do, see what happens. All right. But it is definitely possible in a theoretical way. So anyway, that's what I got for this week. You can send me your questions either through radratvideo.com or through Patreon, and I will answer all the ones that come in through there. You can tap my logo in the middle of the screen right now to subscribe and make sure you don't miss the next video. There's also some videos recommended by YouTube in the sidebar you can check out. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.